Good Sunday afternoon, everyone. It is Sunday, November the 22nd, 2020. It is currently 3:12 p.m. Central Time. Let me readjust my microphone. I apologize. There we go. I had the microphone across the table from me and realized, wait a minute, I'm going to have to be screaming for anyone to hear me. So I've brought the microphone up close. So welcome, everyone. And as I stated, good Sunday afternoon. Hopefully you're having a great day. I'm back here at the church. I was here this morning for a number of hours. We did, how many? 4 hours, I think about 4 hours of live broadcasting today. And I'm back for a Sunday afternoon. I won't call it a Sunday afternoon marathon of live broadcasting because we'll only probably be here just a few hours because I don't think my voice is going to hold up. This morning when I was really trying to teach Romans chapter 7, what I believe was one of the most important sermons we've done on Romans chapter 7. While I was trying to do that this morning, I felt that I was in danger of my voice going completely out. But I think my voice will hold up. It definitely is weak, but I think I can make it through this. So it's Sunday afternoon. I know I've stated that a number of times. It's a cloudy, cool Sunday afternoon here in West Texas. We had a cold front move in, and so it's no longer 80 degrees and sunny. It's cloudy, it's chilly, and I'm here in the church, sitting in the back of the sanctuary, and you probably know what's right in front of me. Here on this table, right here next to me, is a copy of The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. In fact, I have 2 copies of it, 2 different translations of The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis, because sometimes I reference both of them. I joke that one's the King James version of The Imitation of Christ, and the other one is the NIV. But a more modern copy and an older copy of The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. We've been working on this book for a very long time. A lot of messages in this series. I am trying to organize them all into one category there on the theologycentral.net pod page, theologycentral.net. You can go to episodes and you will see the different categories. You hit that category of what you're looking for and all of the messages will be grouped together. So it takes time to work all of that out. I have to go in, find the episode, and then I have to create the category and then find all the episodes that are a part of that and then label them accordingly. But I am working on that and will continue to do so. If there's a series of messages that I did that you want grouped together, just tell me what you want me to call that category, and I'll give it a category, and I will find those messages, and I will put it there so they will be easy to find. Obviously, remember the theologycentral.net pod page has a search function so that you can search the archives and find whatever you want, listen to your heart's content, and share it with a million people, all right? That would be great. So share, and as always, leave a 5-star rating, especially on Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you can leave a review and a rating, that will be great. On the pod page itself, it gives you a place to leave a review. Take advantage of that. I think one is called Podchaser, and you just have to sign up and you can leave a rating and a review. And then that gets posted on our pod page. So that's just helps us and is beneficial. So, all right, enough with all of that. Are you ready? Thomas à Kempis, Imitation of Christ. We are in chapter 13 of book 1. And we're looking at a chapter that is called Resist Temptations. Resist Temptations. And probably the thing that has jumped out to me the most, if you missed the last episode, you need to go back and listen to this, is that when we first hear the word resist temptations, most likely our first thought is, resist temptation. And we think of something scandalous, something salacious, something, really bad. Maybe we have a tendency, especially in the American church, to think of something sexual, resist temptations. But Thomas à Kempis has kind of a broader concept in mind here. And it's It's been very impactful on me, and you have heard me mention this idea in a number of broadcasts. So let me give you this idea, all right? I want to really try to clarify this and articulate this so that everyone gets it. In the Christian life, we are confronted with events, with things that happen every day. They can be significant events or what just seem like a normal event in the course of an everyday life. Nothing significant. But everything you are confronted with, everything you encounter, everything you experience, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's wonderful, or whether it's tragic, everything is at the very same time a trial and a temptation. It's a trial because based on how you respond to it, number one, it may reveal your spiritual growth and your spiritual maturity, or it may be a trial that works to purify your faith, to purify it, to purge out the things that are contaminating it. So it will, everything that you encounter, it will serve as a trial to reveal that the true nature of your Christianity, to purge and purify your Christianity, or it will serve as a temptation because if you respond to it correctly, you will fall into sin. All right? I really want to get this idea across. Everything that happens to you, everything. You're driving your car, the car in front of you cuts you off. All right, now guess what? It can reveal a growing, mature Christian life by you going, okay, I'm not going to get upset about it, not going to get mad. Turn the other cheek. I'm just going to forgive, just move on with my life. Not going to get mad, not going to lay on the horn, not going to yell, not going to scream, not going to call him an idiot, not going to do any of that. And that reveals. Or, I'm getting mad. Okay. Oh, look at that. I feel that anger rising up. That's not good. I need to get rid of that anger. I need to work on my patience. Okay, so now it's purifying. Or you just lose it. You start yelling. You call him an idiot, a moron, and you act the fool, and it demonstrates an ungodliness, and you fall into sin. One simple event. It may reveal your spiritual growth. It may be used to help purify you, or it may be the very source of temptation that falls into sin. We don't look at every situation that way. Everything that happens, I'll give you an example. And ever since I've taught this, I've realized how bad I do at this. Okay, let me give you an example. My wife has not been feeling well. She's been very sick, a number of medical issues. So when I arrived home, after church, I tried to contact her over and over and over, and I got no response. So I get in my car, I drive home. Now, I've been at the church for multiple hours. My voice hurts. I'm hungry. I'm ready to go home and take a break. And I know that I need to hurry up and get there and eat so that I can turn around and get back to church to do all the things I need to do this afternoon. So it's, I'm like, okay, I got to hurry up, get there. Oh, she's not answering, getting a little frustrated. But I handled that initial not responding pretty calm way. I just got in the car, not upset, nothing, packed up, drove home, walked through the front door. As soon as I walked through the front door, I was like, oh no. Okay, she's asleep. Okay, so I don't have lunch. She's asleep. Oh boy. So now do I get back in the car, try to go find somewhere to get food? I got to hurry up and come home. This is going to delay everything. I walk to the bedroom. She's like, oh, you're home? I'm like, yeah. She looks on her phone. She had ordered me food from somewhere, but for some reason the order had to be canceled. I don't know if the restaurant didn't respond. I don't know what happened. So they refunded the money. So there I am. It's almost 1:00 in the afternoon. I have no food, no plan for food. And guess what? I didn't say anything, but I just kind of turned and walked back to my study. And I sat there, and you could argue that I was pouting, but I was frustrated. I was irritated, and I was rethinking how I was going to work the rest of the day. See, now I had an opportunity to handle that in a godly way, and I didn't necessarily do so, right? Now, you can sit there and say, man, he's such an ungodly piece of garbage. And you're right. I'm an ungodly piece of garbage. I will acknowledge that, wretched man that I am, as we talked about this morning on our study of the book of Romans. Yes, I acknowledge that. But what I'm trying to show you is, see that situation, if I would have just stopped for a second, go, wait a minute, here's the situation. Now, this can either reveal the growth of me spiritually, or this can be used now to purify and purge out the impurities, or I better look out. This could be an area of temptation where I'm about to fall. I think I did pretty good in a sense that I didn't get mad. I didn't say anything I shouldn't have said. I didn't say anything insensitive. I just turned and walked away, and I shut my study door. But I wasn't handling it in a godly way as far as emotionally. Like inside, I wasn't handling it in a godly way. Externally, I didn't handle it in an ungodly way, but internally, definitely not godly. See, so in some ways, it served as all of those things. It revealed some good. It was a chance to purify, but at the same time, it became a temptation. And in what Thomas à Kempis is doing, he's using temptation in this broader idea, this broader context. In James chapter 1, there's always lots of debate on how a term should be translated. Let me show you. James chapter 1. James chapter 1. Verse 2, James chapter 1, verse 2, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations or different kinds of temptations. And some people say, wait, that shouldn't be translated temptations. That should be translated trials. Count it all joy when you fall into different trials, because these trials, there's something good that can come from them. But just make sure you understand the word could be trials or temptation, because every trial, every situation is a temptation as well. And I know I'm repeating that. I know I've gone, 12 minutes repeating all of that. And you may be tired of hearing me say it over and over and over, but I really want us to get that. All right. So here I sit in church right now. And at some point, I'll be done this evening, and I'll drive home. And somewhere, as soon as I get in the car, who knows, anything, I could get an email in the next few minutes. Anything could happen right now that will serve as, again, a trial or a temptation. And it will reveal, hopefully, spiritual growth. It can be used to purify and purge out, the contamination in my Christian and spiritual life, or it can be a source of temptation. Everything that happens, we encounter hundreds of these things, thousands of these things per day. Hundreds per hour. Every interaction you have with your family, with neighbor, anything. With a telemarketer calling your house, and it irritates you to no end. There's a way that serves as a situation. And I just wish we had a better understanding of that in our Christian lives, because I think it would change our perspective about life itself. All right. Now, with all of that said, let's go back to the Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. Chapter 13. I'm going to just start over, and then we'll work back to and start where we left off. All right, here we go. Chapter 13, book 1, Imitation of Christ. The name of this chapter, Resist Temptations. This is how it reads. So long as we live in the world, we cannot be without tribulation and temptation. Accordingly, it is written in Job that life of man upon earth is temptation, or life upon earth is trial. It is difficulty. Everyone, therefore, ought to be full of care about his own temptations, and to watch in prayer, lest the devil find an advantage to deceive him. He never sleeps, but goes about seeking whom he may devour. No man is so perfect and holy, but he sometimes has temptations, and we cannot be altogether without them. We're going to encounter them, and we need to be aware of it. We need to be on the lookout for it. And I'm trying to explain to you, it's everything that happens to you, of every second of every day. Nevertheless, temptations are often very profitable to a man, though they be troublesome and grievous, for in them a man is humbled and purified and instructed. So in everything that happens, you can be humbled, you can be purified, and you can be instructed. In every situation that you encounter in a day, there are men right now, Christian men, who love sports, right? They love sports. And right now they're watching the NFL and their team lose, and they will respond to their team losing in a very ungodly manner. Anger, whatever, maybe words they should not say. That can happen. Now you say, well, that's insignificant. It's not, because it's a situation, and that situation, it can reveal, it can purify, or it can be a source of temptation. Or as Thomas Kempis says, and basically it can humble you, purify you, and instruct you. Now, he continues, again, chapter 13 of Thomas Kempis, The Imitation of Christ, book 1. All the saints passed through many tribulations and temptations and profited thereby. They profited by these. And they that could not bear temptations became reprobate and fell away. For many, sometimes all the difficulties in life, all the trials in life, ultimately reveal that there is no genuine faith in the person. Right? They can ultimately reveal, hey, there's nothing actually there, and then they fall away, reprobate, and apostatize because there was never anything genuine there. Sometimes the trials, the temptations of life actually reveals the lack of true faith. Now, of course, he's writing it from a Catholic perspective, so he could argue that they committed a mortal sin and lost the grace of God. Okay, we do have to understand the theological context in which this is written. All right, let's continue. There is no order so holy or place so secret where there are not temptations or adversities. Now remember, Thomas Kempis is writing as a Catholic monk. And what he is saying, it doesn't matter what order of monks you find. It doesn't matter what religious order you find within Catholicism. You're not going to find an order that where there's not going to be no temptation or adversities. Doesn't matter how holy the order is. Doesn't matter if you think it's the best religious order within Catholicism. You're not going to find it. Well, let's put it in language we understand. There is no church. There is no small group. There is no family. There is nowhere where there's not going to be temptations and adversities. There's no family. There's no place of employment. There's always going to be temptation and adversity. There is no place so secret. You can't run off and find some secret place thinking you can get away from it. You're always going to be confronted in life with temptation and adversity. You're always going to be confronted with it. Thomas Kempis continues, there is no man that is altogether safe from temptations while he lives on earth. For in ourselves is the root of temptation, and that we are born in the desire of evil. He says one of the reasons we can never get away from these things is it arises from within us. And he makes a reference to James chapter 1 here. He makes a reference to James chapter 1, starting in verse 13. James chapter 1, verse 13. Let no man say when he is tempted, I'm tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. So ultimately, so much of our difficulty arises from inside of us. That means you can't escape it. You can't get away from it. Now, you may always think it's other people who's the cause. It's other people that's at fault, but it arises from inside of us. When one temptation or tribulation goes away, another comes. We shall always have some suffering because we have lost the blessing of our first happiness. So because of the fall, look, there's always going to be some kind of suffering. There's always going to be some kind of temptation. It's just going to be a constant state that we live in because of the sinfulness in us and because of the sinfulness of the world in which we live. We're going to be bombarded with situations. Boom, boom, boom. And listen, because of our sinful nature, even when something good happens, it really serves as a trial. It can reveal if we're handling it in a godly way. It can be there to purify us. and it can be a source of temptation. I stated it, I think, in the last episode. I'll state it again. Someone right now pulls up in the parking lot of Victory Baptist Church, walks over to the front door, which is currently locked. They knock on it. I just tell everyone on the air, wait a minute, I'll be right back. I get away from this table, walk over, go down the middle aisle, go to the front door, open the door and say, hello. And they say, can I come in for a minute? Sure. And they say, hey, listen to all your podcasts. Think you great. Here's a check for $7,000. You are the most amazing pastor I've ever heard. You are great. You're wonderful. I love you, blah, blah, and say all this. Now, at that instant, I can respond hopefully in a humble, godly way, or this can be a source of temptation where I start feeling ego and pride, and I start thinking about what I'm going to do with $7,000, and then I start thinking, I wonder what I could do to get another $7,000. And next thing I know, I could fall into sin, and it ends up puffing me up, leading to ego, vainglory, and it ends up to selfish desire to get more money. And so I end up trying to please more people like that so that I can get more money, so that I can get the things I want. You see, right there, it's something good, but it serves as all of these things. Because of the sin in the sinful nature inside of me, it starts turning into all of those things. But we just got to be aware it's never going to stop. It's never going to go away. Thomas à Kempis continues, many seek to flee temptations and fall more grievously into them. Now that's interesting. Sometimes you seek to flee the temptation and you fall more grievously into them. Now I think there's truth to that. Sometimes it's the very temptation you're struggling the most to get away from is the one you fall most into. Why is that? That we could have a long discussion. Let's see if he offers any explanation. He says, by flight alone, we cannot overcome. But by patience and true humility, we are made stronger than all our enemies. So he says running alone is not sufficient. Now, that doesn't mean I think there's sometimes you should run. I think there's times you should flee. But that is not sufficient enough, because you may run from it and you have a short-term victory, but you may end up losing the longer battle or the longer war. In other words, you may win that battle, but you still may lose the war because just running from it doesn't deal with it. He says what we need is patience and true humility. True humility. Now, this is an interesting concept here. And again, when we're working through this and studying these kinds of things, I love to throw out ideas to try to get your feedback and to get you to think about this. Let me ask you a question. When it comes to trials, when it comes to temptation, how often have you heard that, let's say you go to your pastor and you're struggling with a temptation, that they offer up as the solution to your struggle with whatever temptation is, pornography, whatever it may be, whatever the sin is, true humility as the solution? How can true humility be the solution? Well, we usually, say, you need accountability, you need to do this, you need to stay away from this. We start with a lot of do's and don'ts. As we typically what we do. Okay, you need to avoid this. Here's the do's, here's the don'ts, here's what you need to do. It's like we immediately start with a list of rules, of do's and don'ts. But Thomas à Kempis says patience and true humility. That's an interesting concept that I've never really thought about. Now, I've read Thomas à Kempis obviously many times, but I for some reason I've overlooked this. It didn't register with me. It didn't hit me. So I don't know. I would like to flesh this idea out, but right now I don't know if I really have anything to offer you other than the concept. And so I'm going to pose it as a question. How does true humility allow us to overcome temptation? How is it a source? How is it a source of strength? Like in a practical way. Like, what would you do if you're like, I'm really struggling with this temptation? Well, what you need is true humility. I think we would probably look at the person and go, what are you talking about? How is that going to help? That's not going to help. I wonder if we have a tendency to try to overcome temptations in a fleshly way and not a spiritual way. I wonder if we have a tendency to do that. I think maybe there's something here. I don't know how humility will work. Let's see if he offers any explanation, because this is an interesting concept here. All right, let me read it again. Many seek to flee temptations and fall more grievously into them. By flight alone we cannot overcome, but by patience and true humility we are made stronger than all our enemies. He who only avoids them outwardly does not pluck them up by the roots shall profit little. So if you simply try to avoid trial and temptation outwardly, but you don't pluck up them by the roots, you're going to profit little. In other words, you're just going to have what appears to be a victory, but it's a short-term victory, but you're going to lose the ultimate war. Yes, temptations will the sooner return to him, and he shall find himself in a worse case than before. Little by little, and by patience with long suffering through God's help, you shall more easily overcome them with violence. You shall more easily overcome them with violence and your own importunity. Often take counsel in temptation and deal not roughly with him who is tempted, but give him comfort as you would wish for yourself. All right, so let's go through this again. So little by little, and by patience with long suffering through God's help, you shall more easily overcome than with violence and your own importunity. Often take counsel in temptation and deal not roughly with him who is tempted, but give him comfort as you would wish for yourself. Let me find this paragraph and our other translation here. Let's see if we can find this. All right. Okay, resisting temptations. Let's see if we can find this. All right, we'll go back here. He who only resisteth outwardly and pulleth up not by the root shall profit little. Nay, rather temptations will return to him the more quickly and will be the more terrible. Little by little, through patience and long suffering, thou shalt conquer by the help of God, rather than by violence and thy own strength of will. So patience and long suffering is the key here, not what he calls violence and your own strength of will. He says violence and your own strength of will not ultimately work. There's a short-term benefit, but will not ultimately work. So he's talked patience, long suffering, and humility. Seems to be his go-to to overcome these things, which they're rarely on our list of weapons. He goes on to say, in the midst of temptations, often seek counsel and do not deal hardly with one who is tempted, but comfort and strengthen him who thou wouldest have done unto thyself. In other words, he says, when you are dealing with people who are being tempted, do so graciously and treat them the way you would want to be treated. All right? That shows kind of humility. All right? Now, he continues. The beginning of all temptation is inconstancy of mind and small confidence in God. So he says the beginning of all evil temptations, the way they start is inconstancy of mind. Lana, let's see what that means, inconstancy. Let me look this up. Let's look this up as we work through this. I know we're going very slow and very methodical, but these are very big concepts that we're trying to wrap our mind around here, okay? Let's look up this word. Let's look it up. Inconstancy means changeability, not sticking to a predetermined course. All right? So inconstancy, inconstant, or inconsistency, I think is the idea here. I think inconsistency is the idea. Did I say inconstancy? Inconsistency is the word. What am I doing? Let me go back and see how it's written here. No, inconsistency. Okay, inconstancy. Why am I saying it that way? I don't know. Maybe it's the word was broken into two parts here in this copy that I have here. Like they got part of the word in one line and the part of the next word in the next part. So I'm just like next line, stancy. Inconstancy. It's inconsistency. All right. I don't know why I was stating it that way. I'm going to verify something here. Okay. That's funny. Let me look at something. I just want to make sure I'm 100% right here. Yeah.
Inconstancy.
Oh, no, inconstancy. Okay, inconstancy. That's right. I'm saying inconsistency. No, it's inconstancy. I was right. Inconstancy. I was right. I'm doubting myself. Inconstancy. I think inconstancy. That's how it's pronounced. Okay. Inconsistencies. All right. So inconstancy. All right. Inconstancy means changeability, not sticking to a predetermined course. Inconstancy. All right. That's the way. Maybe I've confused it, but inconstancy, being inconsistent, inconstancy. You're getting the idea. So he says the beginning of all temptation is inconstancy of mind and small confidence in God. So, in other words, in our mind, we don't stay. Let me go back to the definition. We don't stick to a predetermined course. Okay? Inconstancy of the mind, we don't stick to a predetermined course of what we are supposed to do. We become inconsistent. That's a good way of stating it. All right? So, this is how it starts. We're inconstant in our mind, inconsistent in our mind. All right? And we have a small confidence in God. So in constancy of the mind, small confidence in God, this is the beginning of temptation, according to Thomas à Kempis. For as a ship without a helm is tossed to and fro with the waves, so the man who is careless and apt to leave his purpose is tempted in many ways. So when we begin to not be consistent in our mind about the predetermined course, we get tossed to and fro. We have a small confidence in God, and the next thing you know, we leave our purpose and we're tempted in many ways. Fire proves iron, and temptation a just man. We know not oftentimes what we're able to do, but temptation shows us what we are. Temptation shows us what we are. Now, make sure we understand this. It's going to reveal that we are sinners is what it's going to reveal over and over and over again, and why we need to trust in the grace of God. Yet we must be watchful, especially in the beginning of the temptation. The enemy is then more easily overcome if he is not permitted in any wise to enter the door of our hearts, but is resisted without the gate at his first knock. Wherefore one said, beginnings check, too late is physic sought. That's an interesting way of stating this. Beginnings check, too late sought. Let me read this in the other translation. This is an interesting concept here he wants us to get across. Let me read it in the other translation here. This is written completely different in this one. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go all the way back and try to put this together, because he's really trying to lay down an idea here. The beginning of all temptations to evil is instability of temper, or instability and constancy in the mind, and a lack of trust or confidence in God, okay? For even a ship without a helm is tossed about by waves, so is a man who is careless and infirm of purpose, tempted now on this side and now on that. As fire testeth iron, so doth temptation the upright man. Oftentimes we know not what strength we have, but temptation revealeth to us what we are. Nevertheless, we must watch, especially in the beginning of temptation. For then is the foe the more easily mastered, when he is not suffered to enter within the mind, but is met outside the door as soon as he hath knocked. Wherefore one saith," now here is the statement in this translation, "check the beginnings, once thou mightest have cured, but now 'tis past thy skill, too long hath it endured." So let's read this again. I don't know where he gets this saying from, but here's the concept. So when you're tempted, check it at the very beginning. Once thou mightest have cured. You might have cured it if you check it right at the very beginning. But now 'tis past thy skill, too long hath it endured. So what Thomas Kempis is saying is, once we are confronted, at the very moment we are confronted with it, at the very second, we've got to deal with it. The longer we wait, then it basically gains access deeper into us and our actions and our thoughts and our feelings. And at that point, it's beyond our ability to fix it. So we have to address it right from the very start. Now, I'm going to pick up this other translation here, one second. And I'm going to look up some things here because I'm trying to understand exactly what, if he's saying it in a different way here. Beginnings check, too late is, and let me look up something here. It's written completely different. Give me one second. I'm looking this up. I know this makes for riveting a podcast, but that's okay. We're working through this together because I want to know exactly what he's meaning here. All right, one second. I'm trying to hold two things in my hand. Okay, that's what I thought. Physik. Okay, that's what I thought. Physik. All right, this is interesting. Okay, this is the way it's written. It's written really weird here in this translation. It's an older translation, so this is what I'm stumbling a little over here. Let me go back and find this. Wherefore one once said, "Beginnings check, too late is physic sought. First there comes to the mind a bare thought of evil, then a strong imagination thereof, afterward delight and an evil notion, and then consent. And so little by little our wicked enemy gets complete entrance because he is not resisted in the beginning, and the longer a man is slow to resist, so much the weaker does he become daily in himself, and the enemy stronger against him." So beginnings check, too late is physic sought. All right. Oh, I think I know what now I think I know what he's doing here. Beginnings check, too late is cure sought. Because the word physic here can mean treat with a medicine. All right, so that makes sense. Now that makes sense. So let's read it again. All right, now we'll read it again in this one. Beginnings check, too late is cure sought. In other words, you've got a short opportunity to deal with it. And if you don't, then it's too late to search for a cure or to try to do anything because it gets deeper inside of us. And then he begins to explain how it works. First, there comes to the mind a bare thought of evil. Then a strong imagination thereof. Afterward, delight and an evil notion, and then consent. And so little by little, our wicked enemy gets complete entrance because he is not resisted in the beginning, and the longer a man is slow to resist, so much the weaker does he become, daily in himself, and the enemy stronger against him. All right, so he seems to say the way this works is our first problem is an inconstancy, right? Inconstancy. When we are inconsistent in our mind, right? When we're not consistent in our mind, we're kind of double-minded, I think is a good way of stating it. We don't have a firm grip on our purpose, and we're not committed to that purpose. Then we become vulnerable, and we don't have enough trust in God. We become vulnerable, right? And so that puts us at danger. But then what happens is we sometimes, once we are confronted with that situation, like once we're confronted with whatever it is, if we don't immediately check it, then it's too late to search for a cure or to go for the cure, because it takes root. It gets inside of us. So let me go through his little outline of how it works here again. All right. So beginnings check, too late is physic side, or a cure side. First there comes to the mind bare thought of evil, then a strong imagination thereof, afterwards delight, and an evil notion, and then consent. And so little by little, our wicked enemy gets complete entrance, because he is not resisted in the beginning. And the longer a man is slow to resist, so much the weaker does he become daily in himself, and the enemy stronger against him. All right. I think there's some important truths right there. All right. I'm going to stop there. I want to continue. I could probably finish this, but I'm going to stop right there. So let's back up and let's just take these things apart that we have learned here, we've learned here. Let's kind of summarize what we've learned today. And I know we've kind of just walked through this. But that's the goal of this. I'm trying to invite you to be a part of it. So I'm not just coming at you with a 3-point outline of a chapter. I'm trying to work through it and struggle with it like we're reading it together, all right? So, and that's literally what we're doing. And I apologize for some confusion there on inconstancy and physic, because I was like, what is he trying to say? So when I looked up the definition, then it all made sense. Okay, so here we go. We have learned in this chapter, this is what we learned today, that no matter who you are, no matter where you go, trial and temptation is coming. It's constantly present because of the world in which you live, because of the sin inside of you. You're never going to get away from it. It's never going to go away. So you just have to deal with it. All right. Next, it seems that Thomas à Kempis makes an argument that the way to overcome temptation is not fleeing from it, not hiding from it, but it requires patience and true humility. Patience and true humility, which I've never thought much about, and we have to ask ourselves, how does humility help us overcome these things? What does it provide for us? And I think it's something we have to consider. He reminds us that those who avoid these things outwardly, does not pluck them up by the root, shall profit little, because temptation will sooner or later, it's going to return. And it's going to find ourselves in many cases worse than we were before. So we have to deal with it. We can't just hide from it. And just dealing with it on a surface level won't resolve it. Little by little, and by patience with long suffering, through God's help, you shall more easily overcome them than with violence and your own importunity. In other words, with your own effort, with your own will. You're not going to get far doing it that way. Often take counsel in temptation, and deal not roughly with him who is tempted, but give him comfort as you wish yourself, which you would wish for yourself. All right. Next, the beginning of all evil temptations. The beginning of all temptations is inconstancy of mind. We have to have a very constant and consistent mind that says this is our purpose, and we're not going to be disturbed from that. All right. Just like a ship is without a helm is tossed to and fro with waves, so a man who is careless and apt to leave his purpose is tempted in many ways. Fire proves iron, and temptation a just man. We know not oftentimes what we're able to do, but temptation shows us what we are. Temptation reveals something. Yet we must be watchful, especially in the beginning of the temptation. The enemy is then more easily overcome if he is not permitted in any wise to enter the door of our hearts, but is resisted without the gate at the first knock. Wherefore one said, beginnings check, Too late is physic sought. In other words, you got to deal with it right at the beginning, because later, then the cure, it's too late to seek for the cure. And then this is how it works. First, there comes to the mind a bare thought of evil, then a strong imagination, afterward a delight, then an evil, I said, notion or motion, and then consent. And so little by little, our wicked enemy gets complete entrance because he is not resisted in the beginning. And the longer a man is slow to resist, so much the weaker does he become daily in himself, and the enemy stronger against him. There, that's the summary of the chapter. I feel like there's something missing there. Like I feel like he's thrown us so much at us. Like I feel like that I'm just like standing there and he's like throwing, and I'm boom, 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 boom. I'm getting hit. I'm like, okay, what's the one point you want me to take from this? And I don't know if there's one central point other than we got to deal with it immediately. We got to do it at the beginning, or it's going to be too late for the cure once it gets inside of us. But the idea of humility as a weapon against temptation and trial has to be something that I think we need to explore a little more. And hopefully we will be able to do just that. All right. There we have it. That was, I don't know what that was. I apologize for messing up some words. Okay. I know, actually I had inconstancy, right? And for some reason thought, because I'm thinking of inconsistency, but it's inconstancy. So I need to go figure, maybe I've always stated it incorrectly. I don't know. All right. So maybe, who knows? That's one of those things, like, is that the same word? Is it a different word? Inconsistency is spelled differently. So it's a different word. Inconstancy. In fact, let's just look it up. I'm just going to look it up. All right. Because now the physic thing just threw me off because I didn't know what he was talking about. Inconstancy, we got that, okay? Inconstancy. And then let's look up, that's inconstancy. Let me look up, hang on. Inconsistency, the fact or state of being inconsistent. Yeah, it's spelled differently. Inconsistent. Inconsistency is the quality or fact of not staying the same at different times. All right. So inconsistency and inconstancy means changeability, not sticking to a predetermined course. So it's the same idea. So I guess when I first looked at it in the book, I just saw the in and the last part because it was separated, and I just kind of, my mind started filling it in, and I said inconstancy, so I read it correctly, but then my mind started thinking, wait, I'm saying it's inconsistency, right? No, it's inconstancy because it's not spelled the same. So there you have it. I don't know. It threw me off, and once I realized I'd messed up, I thought I'd messed up when in reality I didn't mess up. So there you have it. That's okay. That's okay, because we're trying to figure out what Thomas à Kempis is telling us. And sometimes when you read the writings that way, you struggle with a little bit of that. So hopefully something good comes from this, right? Maybe, possibly. Here's the thing. I'm going to get 50 emails about, inconstancy and physic. And I'm going to get more emails about that than I am about trying to figure out what he's telling us in regards to temptation. So that's where my mistake overshadows the content of the message, which will be very unfortunate. But you know what? I'm going to leave it. And guess why I'm going to leave it? Because what I've been learning over and over, and especially this has been a powerful lesson, is the idea of humility. You have to be humbled. I can't allow my ego here to stop me from posting this. My ego says it's embarrassing, don't do it. But I've got to destroy my ego. That's the only way to advance in your Christian life. The destruction of self, the humiliation of self, the abasing of self. That's the only way. And Thomas à Kempis seems to say that it's also a step in the right direction against temptation. Now, I don't quite understand exactly how, but I'm going to at least try to develop humility by being humiliated. There we have it. All right, we'll stop right there. newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. Everyone have a great day. God bless.